Okay, it's story time. It's really on my heart to share my story behind the reasoning as to why the year 2022 is like a very special year to me. I know we just started and it already started off really rough, especially for me, my poor baby, but it's still going to be a good year in its own way. It's still a significant year to me, period. So I'm going to share why that is. So in order for me to tell this story, there's two parts. There's a shorter story to the story, and then there's a larger part to the story. So starting with my boy. So by calendar year, it's significant to me by calendar year because of this. When I was 18, I was dating someone. We were pregnant, and the day I had told him about it, it was in late March, and at first he was like, no, I don't want to do it, and he was like, oh no, you know what, I'll be happy to have a child with you. I was like, okay. So when we were talking, God gave me a number after I had just told him I was pregnant. God gave me a number, and it was a number 3. He gave it number 3 in my mind. Number 3 was popping up, and I was like, okay. And then the next day I wake up and I'm miscarrying the baby. So after I had told him, I was already pregnant for 3 weeks. Woke up the next day after he knew about it, and I lost the baby. It's okay. I was not sad about it because that was not a good situation anyway, and I was mad young. The guy ended up getting 20 years in prison. He's still in prison. He has a baby mom with another kid, so it's okay. We're good over here. That loss didn't hurt me. But so 3 years from that day, that same day, and I marked it because it was significant enough to me. I was like, I need to remember this. So I marked the day that I told him where I got that number. 3 years from that day, I had my son. He was born March 23rd, 2017. It was the same day that I told this guy about the pregnancy when I was pregnant. Then I lost it. So I had my son. And then when I had my son, on that same day, I took him home. I enjoyed him. I got home and I was looking at him, and then God gave me another number. But this time he didn't just give me 1, he gave me 2. He gave me another number 3, and he gave me another number 5. And so 3 years from that day, well, not even just 3 years from that day, 3 years from then was 2020. 2020 was a significantly great year for me. I know a lot of people went through things that year. I'm not being insensitive to those who struggled and had losses, but for me personally, it was an amazing year. Now, when you have a good year, when you have a blessed year, that doesn't just mean that everything is great and you're getting everything you want. That's not what it means. It means that things are turning out for your favor, regardless if you hit a bump in the road or not. And when you're not hitting the bump in the road, those are like those really good times that where you're like, that give you that euphoria of, yeah, this is a good year. It was just a blessed year, whether there was a bump in the road or not. And for the most part, it was a fun year for me. It was like a good time. So my life had shifted into a place from the situation I was in prior to where now I'm not going back there. It's like he really catapulted me to the next level in that year 2020. So that was the third year mark, 2020. 5 years from when my son was born is now 2022. So I've always known that 2020 and 2022 were going to be significant years for me. 2020 checked out. Yes, it was a great year. It was everything I thought it'd be. And then 2022 is here. So by calendar year, this is a very significant year to me. Okay? So by calendar. Now, the number 222 is significant to me as well. And it coincides. It's perpendicular to the year 2022 because it's the same numbers, 222. The zeros have no value to them. They have its place, but there's no spiritual element to it. Does that make sense? I studied numerology, so it gets deep, but we're not doing numerology right now. So then, the reason why 2022 is so important to me is because, well, I have to go back. I have to go way back. I have to go back to when I was 16. So there is this website where it's called Omegle. It still exists. You could go look it up right now. It's omegle.com. It's a website where you could video chat and chat. You don't have to have the video, but there's video. Like a video pops up of someone, and then your video pops up down here, and then you have your chat, and then you guys can talk. And then if you don't like the person you're talking to, you can just hit next, and then they'll leave the chat, and you'll leave the chat, and you won't be able to find them again. So it's kind of like a cool like speed dating thing, but it's not speed dating. It's just chatting with people all over the world in different time zones and different places, and it's so cool. And you know, I'm a very social person, and I love to meet diversity, and so I got really hooked on it, and my spirit was like really like wrapped up in it. And now I know, well, now like 10 years later, now I know why it was. Literally 10 years later. Oh my God, it's been 10 years. What? Okay, so one night, and I did it well from 15 to 16. I was like hooked on that website. In my free time, that's what I would do. One night on a weekend off a school night, like a Friday night or something, I was on Omegle, and I was going through a bunch of people, and the last person I ended up speaking to was the last person I ever like talked to on there or spent time with. I never went back to the website really much after that. Came across this boy, and I was in, my setting was a dark, my dark bedroom with like a little light on, and his was like the same. It looked like his, like a bedroom with a little light on it. We were talking, and he was like, "Oh, you cute," and I was like, "Not so bad yourself." and that was it at first. And then we started like having intellectual conversations, and then for somehow some way, I can't remember how the conversation went, but I had ended up referencing God. And when I said that, he said, "You believe in God?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he goes, he's from Sweden, by the way. It was just a boy in Sweden, which is very important to the whole damn story. I don't know why I didn't mention that at first. He goes, "In Sweden, we don't believe in God, we believe in science." And I was someone who was pretty strong, gung-ho on science as well. So I think this kind of like helped me, kind of pushed me into atheism, because not too long after that, I became an atheist. But I said, "No, yeah, of course." And you know, but I wish if it was me now, back then, with what I know now, I would have been able to explain to that boy how actually science does prove God's existence. But I didn't know that much then. So I've always thought about that. So then he started to say, we started to go back and forth with the conversation, and then he told me that no one in the country believes, you know, like no one. And there's no such thing, like if you say you're a Christian out there, you say you believe in Jesus, like people will look at you like you got 10 heads. Like it's that way. It's that much, like they depend on science. Like they don't even know what a God is. So when I heard that, my heart sunk. Sunk. And one of the first things I wanted to be when I was little was a missionary. Missionaries are people who go out into the world and spread the good news of Jesus. That's what I wanted to be when I was a little kid, like my first thing. So I always had that heart, that missionary heart, even though it's not what ended up happening. But my heart sunk from it. And after I got off the line with him, I just thought about that. I'm like, an entire country of people not believing. What a waste of humanity. It's so sad. Not a waste like their waste, but their eternity is not going to ever be realized. They're going to go down the chute. Like, you know what I mean? That's how I felt. My heart broke. And from time to time, I would always think about that moment and that boy and what he told me about Sweden. But that would be it, you know? I would think about it, and that was it. I really stopped thinking about like him after a couple years. So by the time I was 19, well, I'll get back to that later. Okay, so how am I going to tell the rest of the story? It's like, it's so spaced out. Okay, let's do this. So, when 2020 hit, the year 2020, when I came out to Texas because COVID hit, and you know, no one had jobs, so I was coming here to stay with my mom and my son. Cause my son had came out here before I did. I started to get like my spirit, and this is not something I'm gonna be able to explain verbatim, because it is nothing I can explain. This is a supernatural phenomenon I experienced for like 2 weeks straight. It overpowered me so much and was so real that I couldn't handle it, and I had no peace. So I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I keep getting these winds of New Zealand, the country New Zealand. I'm like, I keep thinking about New Zealand. I'm obsessed with New Zealand. I want to move out there. Like, my spirit has like these winds of like, it wants to go over there. I don't know why, but it was overpowering me to the point where I couldn't handle it. So when I told my mom, because she had knew I've been talking about New Zealand nonstop for 2 weeks, she didn't realize it was like that. So when I told her, she said, just pray about it, give it to God, and see what happens. So I did. I prayed, I gave it to God, and I had peace. I didn't think about New Zealand anymore. It wasn't overtaking my body. But I'm glad I had that experience, because that experience ended up helping me understand another phenomenon that I experienced this past fall. So what happened was, in August, something happened with me and someone else, and it was a very hard decision, and it was a very hard time. And I regretted, I knew I would regret it. I made a decision that really messed me up. It was a really hard time. Sometimes I think about it from time to time and I get sad, but not sad like I was before. I was in a really bad place from late August to the fall till September. By end of September, I think it was. No, by mid-September, yeah. And then after, things were said and done through to October, about mid-October, I had the hardest time dealing with it. It wreaked havoc on my heart and my spirit and my mind. I had no peace, and it really, I basically like vandalized myself. I traumatized myself, and then that pain was transient because it extended to someone else. So it was really hard time for me. I still feel like a shitty person even just talking about it, but I opened up about it at church to people when it was really fresh and raw. And although I've never done that because I believe in like time heals all wounds, that's what I've thought. No, when you're feeling it fresh and raw like that, something that's giving you pain, you need to do it right there when it's open and vulnerable. When you do that, you'll get over it and you'll heal much faster. Like, I thought this was going to be something that was going to take me a long time to get over, but by the grace of God and with God's help, opening up to people I trust at church, I recovered much sooner, quicker. And you know what he told me too? He said, Fee, you'll have peace with this quicker than you think. It's right around the corner. It's sooner than you think. He told me that too. And I didn't believe him. I mean, I believed him, but I didn't like believe him. I'm like, how, this is so terrible. But it did. And I had peace with it, but I would still get flashbacks with the persons involved, the persons that were hurt. And I would get flashbacks of my hurt and just a lot of pain, flashbacks of pain, but it wasn't like, I had more peace though. And my son had been starting to kind of read my mind. I know it sounds crazy, but he was reading my mind a lot. Like, I would think something and he would answer the question out loud. Sounds crazy, but it's true. So at the time, my son was doing that. So that's what he did. I was in the bathroom cleaning, and he was kind of a couple feet away from me, and he was playing with his toys, and I was having flashbacks, and the flashbacks, I could not control them. We usually we can control our minds. I swear to you, in that moment, no matter how hard I tried to stop thinking about these flashbacks coming, it wouldn't stop. And then all of a sudden, my son jumped up, and he goes, 22, mommy, 22. He runs up to me, looks at me, says, 22, mommy, 22. And I was like, looked at him like, okay, baby. And then once he said that, it all stopped. I stopped getting flashbacks, and I had absolute, concrete, thorough, through and through peace. And then I really had the real closure that I needed to keep going on with absolute peace and joy like it never happened. So my son, by coming up to me, he basically, if you're not familiar with this stuff, but he was basically prophesizing to me, kind of like how God gave me those numbers. He was prophesizing to me in that moment, and the power of that prophecy is what gave me the peace, because that prophecy was anointed. So when it's so by the time it reached me and I received it, I had it anointed my spirit and it cleaned me out. And then also remember what he was telling me. He was telling me number 22. So after he said that, that's when the whole 222 thing started going for me. Then about a week, then that coming week, because that was like around a weekend, I think, that coming week, Monday through a Sunday, all week, the entire week, I was having winds like I did with the New Zealand phenomenon, except it wasn't as strong and overpowering. It was more peaceful and delicate. It wasn't as aggressive. But I was getting winds of mountains, and it was the same winds that I've experienced when I was doing an astral projection involuntarily in one of my dreams. One of my dreams, like long years ago, around 19 years old, I was flying over these mountains. I know it sounds crazy, but it was one of those dreams that are super lucid, super vivid. That's the best way I can describe it. I was flying over mountains, and as I was going, like, the spirit of the air and my spirit, like, was one. It was commingled. So I never forgot the smell and the feeling of that, even though I didn't experience it in the natural realm, right? So I was getting those winds, those exact winds, like coming through me, through my spirit. I know it sounds crazy, but I was, and I got it. I was getting it peacefully throughout the week. By the time it was Sunday, I was questioning. I was like, what's going on? And this is important. So while I was getting those winds, God told me that the man that he has planned for me is someone that I already know. It's someone that I've already met. First, what he said to me is someone you already know, and then my interpretation in the natural is someone you've already met. It's one and the same, but it's the same, it's the same field. So, and I was kind of getting that periodically throughout the week, and I was like, why am I even thinking about this? Because if you know me, I'm not thinking about that. I'm happy single. I'm happy alone. I'm happy to be with nobody. Okay, so my mind's not even there. But that's what God was telling me. And then I get to Sunday, we go to church. I didn't even want to go to church, but I'm a mature and have learned enough to know that when you don't want to go to church and you don't feel like going, that's when you need to go the most. And when you do, you never regret it. You always feel 10 times better than when you came in and are super happy that you did. So I went to church. When I got to church, it ended up being a guest speaking pastor. Okay? The guest speaking pastor comes up and he says that he's from Sweden. And I was like, what? I was mind blown. Because those mountains are from the Nordic regions, the mountains of the winds that I was getting. So it was like my sign, so I was like, what? He's from Sweden? All these Sweden things, my memories were coming back from the past, and the winds, the Nordic winds, Sweden is in the Nordic region, and it was all leading up to this moment. This man is from Sweden. And then that blew my mind. For it just to be that blew my mind. I didn't think it could get any better, but then it got even better. He spoke on the one thing that blew my mind when I spoke to that Sweden boy when I was 16. He specifically said verbatim how he came to Christ in a country that 1% of the population goes to church. For other people who would hear that, it's like, okay, he's just sharing us statistics. For me, it was significant because that is the absolute fact about that country that tore my heart up when I was 16. That freaking made me sad for the people, for those people. Like to the point where I was thinking about it for a long time. Like it affected me. It impacted me. He said the one thing that that impacted me about that country. He could have talked about anything. He mentioned that, and he spoke on that, and he elaborated on that. And then after I realized what a significant thing is going on for me right now, after that, I started to get the numbers. 222, 222, 222, 222, 222, 222. I'm serious. I started to get the numbers 222, and then I also started to remember one last little detail. Well, two. The first thing I remembered when I was getting these numbers, and after the whole Sweden fiasco, I remembered when I was astral projecting and being all weird and doing some freaking creepy stuff when I was 18, I was in the void, which is between the fourth dimension and this dimension. And it's like the void because it's literally anything can materialize in that. It's kind of like the path, like the in-between. That's the best way to explain it. And I had just, it was in my instincts to ask the at the time, I thought I was just asking the universe, whatever's out there. But I know it was God, because God is the universe. So at the time I said, who is he? And when I said, who is he? I got two images that popped up. Number 2. Oh my God, I just realized that was 2. Oh my God. You see, I even put it together now until I talked about it. But I got 2 images that popped up of a boy, and I didn't think anything of it. But then when this all happened, I remembered it. I forgot all about it. I remembered it, and it came back to my memory. Because the last time I thought about it was when I was first dating my father's son. After that, I didn't think about it anymore. I completely forgot about that, and it came back to my memory, and I was like, oh shit. And then and then something else came to my memory. When I was 11 years old, I went to this sleepaway camp called what was it? No, not VCRTT. What the fuck was it called? I went to this camp. It was called Camp Tecumseh. Camp Tecumseh. It was a Christian camp, and they divided us groups, girls and boys, by age or so, into different countries to compete with each other in like Olympic Games. And guess what country I was in? Sweden. I was in motherfucking Sweden. Okay? If you are not making the dots and the connections by now, you're just out of it. You just don't want to hear it, because that is no coincidence. Way before I even went on Omegle, met that Sweden boy and all these things, I got, out of all the countries they had in the huge camp, the one country I was put in was Sweden. That's no coincidence. So God reminded me of that. And then everything from there was just 222, and now we're here. We're in 222. So there's definitely some significance. And then on Christmas, right before 2022, or I think it was New Year's. Was it New Year's? I think it was New Year's. Oh shit, it was New Year's. No, so it was like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. My sister calls me. She says, me and my fiance, we're coming over. We just got done going out. We want to eat food, hang out, and chill before we go home, go to bed. So she come over, we talk, and the days leading up to that, I had it like on my heart, on my spirit to share with my sister all of this. And I usually don't. Me and my sister are starting to get more close. We've been distant, but we're getting there. So I haven't really been sharing too much intimate things yet, just because our relationship is still getting back to where it used to be. But for some reason, I just wanted to share this with her. So I did. So I shared it with her when she came back that night, and it was not for no reason. She told me before I could even tell her what God was telling me, she told me that on their way here, they were in an Uber with a woman, or right before they came here, left to come here, they were in an Uber with a woman, and this woman was talking about how she's lives in Hawaii and she's been stuck in South Carolina because of COVID and stuff, and how she's been trying to get back to Hawaii, but no matter what that woman did, she couldn't get back. So she ended up, when she ended up finally letting go her will to force herself to go back to Hawaii, she said that God started speaking to her and started telling her how the person to wait, because the person that she has for her is someone that she's known before, that she already knows. my mind was blown. My sister told me that. And then she ended up telling my sister how this boy's name that she went to school with, elementary, when she was little, kept coming up after that. So my mind was blown, because that's exactly what God told me. That's the same thing God told me. And then throughout, after that time, I was getting all of these little details, these new insights, and it was parallel. When it's God's truth, when the truth parallels another's testimony, another's walk, another's witness. So my sister told me, and I was like, oh my God, Sophia, that's what God told me. He told me that the one I'm meant to be with is someone that I already know. And for me, it's like someone you've already met, because I'm a very logical person. I'm very intellectual. So I translate it in my own way, but it's still the same. He told me it's someone you already know. When my sister told me that, it was like the nail on the coffin head. There is something significant about Sweden, about the boy that I met, and about this number 222. When I told her that, she goes, Phoenicia, my real name is Phoenicia. But call me Fee, okay? If you don't call me Fee, it's something. No. So she goes, Phoenicia, do you think he's here? Do you think he's here? I said, I don't know. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe that boy just played a big part in it. And like, I meant to go to Sweden and missionary, because that's where my heart is really at. But maybe I'll get a 2-for-1 special and get both. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm gonna allow myself to continue to open up for that experience and see what God has in store for me, and let it continue to unfold. I already, He gave me the promise. I had the promise. And I have security in that promise. That's why, I'm not really worried about it. I'm just letting it, it's a fun ride. A lot of people like to control the narrative and control what God is trying to do in their lives, but it's a lot more fun when you just let go and let Him take the wheel. And it's just exciting, and it never gets tiring about how amazing God is. The way He works, He makes things so fun. It's like a big adventure. I don't know. But it's an adventure that is consistent, and it's not chaotic, and you feel secure. You don't feel like you're hanging on for a ride and the bottom is about to fall out. Like the flooring is about to, your floorboards beneath you are about to like implode or something. It doesn't feel like that. So I just wanted to share that. I wanted to share it as like a Valentine Day thing, because regardless if it has to do with me finally meeting the person that God has meant for me, which it could go that way, whichever way it goes, if it goes to the left, it goes to the right, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this just continues to show me God's love for me through His promises and through the way He works for me. My son is a living promise that God gave me after I lost my first pregnancy, and He gave me another promise that came through, and He gave me another one that looks like it's about to come through. And that's love. That's His love is true love, and love is not a feeling. It's not lust. It's not infatuation. It's not, oh, I want to be with you. Love is none of those things. Love is a state of being, and the only one that we can count on to be consistent like that is God, because God is love. Okay, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this little story of mine. It's pretty crazy, but I hope you got something out of it. I can't wait to see what happens, and I'll keep you updated. Bye.